I'm sorry, is that chocolate milk? Can I? I'm so sorry, I don't know what.
Alright guys, time for a Deltarune theory video. This is a bit new for the channel, but you know, we got chapter 5 coming out in a few weeks, and I've never heard anyone talk about this before, so I gotta crack this one open real quick before Toby beats me to it. And I'm so confident in this theory that it's less of a theory and more of a prediction, if anything. But, first and foremost, I need to establish the premises that are going to be important here. Number one, the first premise is that chocolate is just important to Deltarune's story and world, alright? And you might think that's a little crazy if you're a lesser theorist than myself, but real Delta heads out there already know the significance of chocolate to the world of Deltarune, okay? But, for the people who don't know, I gotta run down all the chocolate-related material we have in this game. I'm gonna go through this in order of blatant insanity, but there are actually some instances of chocolate being referenced that is insignificant enough that I'm not even including it. But it does add to this theory. Stuff like one of the recruited townspeople in that like cafe area talking about making some chocolate blueberry drink for Kris specifically. Alright, that can be evidence 0. Alright, evidence 1. When you interact with Alphys in chapter 4, if you previously gave her Undyne's chocolates or whatever, then Alphys will notice that Kris presumably ate some of it themselves, saying, "Kris, I did notice one of her chocolates was, missing. It's okay, delivery fee and all that." Boom, Kris ate the chocolate. Boom, evidence 2, this fucking Sans dialogue where he is talking about Toriel, and he says, "She's great. Came to the store to buy chocolate kisses. Said she's gotta lock her door to stop you from eating them. You sound like a fun kid, huh?" She literally has to lock her door to stop you from getting them. That's literally, this is like addiction level. This is like addiction level. Boom, evidence 3. If you give the Choco Diamond food item to Noelle, she will react saying, "It's okay, Kris. I'll share." This one might seem a little insignificant, but in a way, it actually stands out in its insignificance. I mean, Kris' craving for chocolate is so evident that it's apparently visibly apparent to the other characters of the world. And Toby Fox felt compelled to write this. Alright, but now we get to the big stuff, alright? The evidence 4 is that after you beat Spamton, and Kris is, you know, shaken up and stuff, Ralse has this dialogue where he says, "Kris, I'll make you some cake later, okay? I could even make it chocolate flavored." What? How does Ralse know Kris would want a chocolate flavored cake? They've only known each other for like 5 seconds or something. You could say it is perhaps Gaster related, because, you know, Ralse has a lot of knowledge that is sort of inexplicable like this. So you could just lump this in. And to be fair, Ralse also follows this up saying, "Butterscotch, cinnamon, whatever you want." But you know, to me that reads like Ralse second guessing his intuition of chocolate being the obvious choice for some reason. Alright, but whatever. Now we gotta get to evidence number 5, which is the most famous one that's basically unavoidable, which is in chapter 3, whenever Kris gains autonomy from the player basically. The literal first thing they do is go to the kitchen and start chugging chocolate milk like a fucking freak. And this is literally confirmed to be chocolate milk in this old fucked up drawing that Toby Fox posted on Twitter. Which, you know, the fact that he had this that far planned in advance only speaks to the significance of this scene. I mean, this is so in your face that it really is portraying this desire for chocolate like a damn addiction, alright? But we will get to that later. For now, we're gonna move on to the next premise, okay? The premise number 2 is Kris does not simply like chocolate, okay? And if you don't already know why I'm bringing this up, you gotta prepare for the absolute bombshell that is boom. This Tenna quiz question where he asks, what's Chris's favorite food? And everyone instantly is like, well, duh, it's chocolate. Even Susie is like, duh. And Rouse is like, chocolate, right? But no. The correct answer is actually pie. Now, this is insane. Okay, some people really rationalize this scene by saying some shit like, well, Kris just has two favorite foods, Kris just likes both and just happens to like pie more. And I'm not denying that Kris likes chocolate. I'm just calling attention to the narrative significance of filling this game with fucking chocolate and then having Kris's favorite food not be chocolate. I mean, there has to be something going on here. And I've seen ridiculous explanations online saying like, oh, well, Tenna is just wrong and thought pie was Kris's favorite food. But no, Kris actually coughs or whatever in this scene to telegraph the correct answer before you choose it, which implies Kris would know this to be true. Okay, so I just find it hard to believe that all these insane chocolate-related shenanigans are going on, and it's just casually not Kris's favorite food. Alright, which leads me to premise 3. Men in Black 3. Okay? Or actually, I don't know. I mean, this is the bet I'm placing down, but minimum, you could call the theory here and just say that my prediction for the coming chapter is that chocolate is going to be narratively significant. But if we welcome getting a little ahead of ourselves, you can clearly see that the Undertale release date was in 2015 and Men in Black 3 released in 2012. Clearly enough time for Toby Fox to have seen it, committed it to his mind, and then referenced it. This also allows me to tackle the real haunting chocolate evidence that I have been ignoring to bring up, which is the Kara relation. Now, if you look at the Undertale text dump, chocolate is only brought up 4 fucking times in the entire game, and 90% of them are insignificant flavor text. Except for the iconic Kara line, where Kara is like, no chocolate at the fridge, which the fandom has latched onto just from that single dialogue is basically the idea that Kara really likes chocolate or something. And Toby Fox obviously knows this, so it's not even unlikely that the chocolate-related stuff in Deltarune related to Kris is like being done in relation to this. And I've heard people say it's some meta-narrative thing where Toby Fox is pulling this bait and switch with the audience to make them think Kris is going to be like Frisk or Kara before pulling the rug out from under us, with Kris being unique or whatever. Even though the second Kris gets autonomy from us, they immediately go do some ostensibly Kara-related shit. Whatever. The actual, more plausible explanation is that it's time travel, okay? Now in Men in Black 3, whenever people time travel, they start spontaneously getting a craving for chocolate milk, alright? And who else is a time traveler that we know has a craving for chocolate milk? Alright, that's right, it's Kris Deltarune. And maybe even Kara, even. Now, if you were to try and counter this, you might bring up the Sans dialogue we talked about before, where apparently Kris has been trying to sneakily eat chocolate since what is assumedly before the events of the game. But that is where you would actually be a fake Delta head if you brought this up, because real fans know that Kris has actually been saving and loading since before the player even got involved, alright? That's why in Chapter 1, whenever you first save, you're overwriting Kris's save point, with your own. And also, that's the birdcage thing in Kris's room, which, means some soul-related stuff has probably been happening since before the game even started. Probably some Gastery saving and loading stuff has been happening for a while, and that, that means craving chocolate, alright? It's just what happens whenever you start time traveling. You just start craving chocolate milk. And if you bring up Frisk or the other fallen children, then, we don't have evidence that they don't, crave chocolate milk. No. In my mind, they do. Alright, in my mind, Frisk is constantly craving chocolate milk and just has no outlet because, you know, they're being controlled by the player the whole time. Or something. You know, maybe the fallen children were just, you know, eating chocolate off screen. I wouldn't put it past them. But you know, boom. That's the thesis, okay? That's the thesis of this video. Time travel in Deltarune makes you begin to crave chocolate milk. And that's why Kara liked chocolate, and that's why Kris likes chocolate. And because it is a spontaneous craving, that is why Kris does not consider it their favorite food. And this, you know, this could have some fun narrative implications. Like, you know, maybe there will come a time where a character needs to identify a time traveler like Kris, and they do it by seeing them eat chocolate, which gives it away. Alright, there are big ghastly things going on here. This motherfucker is like Willy Wonka in that bunker, and I'm waiting for Chapter 5 to prove it. But you know, that's the video.
You might be involved in some sort of temporal fracture.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Chocolate milk relieves temporal fracture headaches.
What's a temporal fracture?
A break in the timeline.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Time travel. Time travel.